Okay. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Pump House's series of artist talks. My name's Olivia, and I'm the gallery coordinator here at the Pump House. And today I'm joined by Edward Burgess, whose current exhibition, Wilderness Neighbors, is on display in our balcony gallery now through September 7th, 2024. So thank you for joining me, Edward.
Thank you. Glad to be.
And yeah, let's begin with you just giving us a little bit of a background of your experience in the arts.
Well, art's really been something that's been, part of my whole existence ever since I could remember. I've always liked to draw, and my earliest memory is, picking up a pencil and just doodling. And I grew up on, a hobby farm run by my aunt and uncle. They lived next door, but their barn was actually on our yard. So they would come up every day to do chores. And it was like a big rural area, lots of nature, lots of wildlife and livestock. So um yeah, I was always surrounded by animals, and I think it was a real sort of like melding, inevitable that, the two think biggest influences in my life should meld. And I've always liked to draw animals. And really, I think um, when I draw something, and I've really got to look at it. I've got to like observe every single detail I can, and um, basically that when I try and like represent that on the page, I I really gain a better understanding, and I think that's part of my whole process, my whole experience. It's art is really, kind of a learning process for me. It's a way for me to learn, and it always has been. And really, the more I draw the natural world, the more I learn about it. And I think, it's sort of like a feedback loop. The more I learn about one thing, the more I learn about another. And uh, you know, I've always really sought to combine those two passions in my life. And because it's really been just a continuous presence, it's something I can't imagine my life without, really.
Wonderful. And would you say your keen observation for animals and nature and growing up on the hobby farm is your main inspiration for this exhibition as well?
Oh yeah. The animals here aren't like necessarily animals that are from this part of the world, but the process that I learned growing up on this farm has really informed the process I use for drawing pretty much everything. Um, yeah, basically, uh, when I'm interacting with an animal, I'm always sort of looking at like how it's moving, how it's behaving, how it's the various parts of its body, its anatomy, its muscles, its skin are interacting with one another, how it's moving, it seems to be like reacting to its environment. And whether it's I'm drawing like a sheep or something that I would have seen as a kid on the farm back at home, or something from like the opposite end of the world, the principle's the same.
Wonderful. Well, we can definitely see your keen appreciation in these works of art. So let's get into a few that are in your exhibition. This is the first piece. Would you like to give us a little bit of a background and your process along with this?
Yeah, of course. So, right off the bat, obviously, this isn't an animal that you'd find around here, except in zoos, which is where I saw this thing. Typically, what I'll do is, whenever I go to some place where there's going to be a lot of animals, I either have my phone at the ready, or if I've got enough room to transport, I'll have a camera. So, if I'm like going to a zoo or something, I'll be ready to snap a picture of them. Any animal that's staying still or close enough to where I can get it at a good angle. And This one, I believe, was taken the Minnesota Zoo. It was a very long time ago. Basically what it, I've got on my computer an entire file of photographs of animals I've taken over the years. So, what I'll do is sort of like compile a bunch of them and sort of dig around and, find one that looks interesting. And, oh, that'd be a cool subject for a drawing. So, I'll pull this one up. I don't remember exactly when I took the photograph that inspired this one. It was a while ago though. But I thought it would be a really great subject, a really um, good for a big subject. This is the largest piece that I've got in the pump house right now. Basically, uh, because it's such a large animal, I figured it would be the proper way to sort of impress upon the viewer the scale of the thing. Obviously it's not to scale, but it's definitely large. Um, And one thing I really love about drawing animals like this is it's not the most colorful animal in the world. It's still big and imposing, and there's a lot of color to it. But it's not like a bird of paradise or something, or like a poison dart frog. The colors are a lot more muted. They're a lot more subtle. But I think there's an opportunity there to capture a different kind of richness. There's a lot of brown here and a lot of gray, but there's so many varying tones of browns and grays and, like caramel colors and, and whites and blacks. And I think, in order to really represent the animal, you've got to have a good appreciation of the nuance of muted colors. And I think if you can capture that, you can really bring out the majesty of, an animal like this. And I really, one of the things I like about drawing, especially larger animals, is, I mentioned before the sense of scale. It really gives you a new appreciation for how powerful, certain aspects of the natural world are. A big animal, a majestic animal. It's really puts things into perspective. I mean, human beings think we're, so special and adept and masters of our environment, but there are a lot of ways in which you know, various species surpass us and just sheer, you know, inability to move around, in their environments, that I think we can't match. And, it might be kind of cliche to say, but, it really is a humbling thing as an artist. I think, more people should see that. And, that's why I like drawing animals like this.
Definitely great. Thank you. Great. Thank you for giving us a little bit of a background of your work. Let's move into the next piece here. This is just done in graphite.
Yep.
Can I ask how you decide whether to do a piece in color or not in color?
Oh, yeah. So basically, um, it really is a subjective decision because as human beings, we're mammals. We have a sort of like we're naturally drawn to things in the environment that are a little bit more similar to us. We can we relate to certain animals on different levels. Um, and, the closer something is to us taxonomically, I think, the more it resonates with us, the more we sort of like relate to it, the more we like it. And I think, beyond just, whether or not we like something, I think there's a certain uh, attitude that we perceive in, pretty much any animal. Like, if you look at a mammal, even something like a hoofed mammal like it's pretty different from us, but it's still a mammal. There's this sense of vitality, like it's always moving, it's always in motion, it's always alert. And I think that there's an intrinsic sense of vitality that um the animal displays. And that's not, I don't mean to say that as like a value judgment. When I say something is more vital than the others, it just I just mean it seems to be more active. And so when I'm drawing something like this, it's not a mammal, it's a reptile. um the sense of vitality, the sense of motion, it's not the same as it would be in in a mammal. I mean, that's still alive, it's still alert, it's still aware of its surroundings, but a lot of reptiles are either perfectly at rest or they're like in motion like crazy. And I always personally, as an artist, again, this is kind of subjective, but saw in reptiles a kind of, and amphibians, a kind of meditative quality, sort of like stoic stoniness. And that sort of well, stoicism, I think, is best represented in black and white and grayscale, because um it's a reflection of the attitude. When we think of things in black and white, we tend to think of something, things as a little bit more somber, um a little bit more calm, and serene, and less energetic. But and I think that was at least in terms of representing something artistically, that was the best choice for this particular subject.
Definitely. And one thing I love about this exhibition is the medium you use, graphite and colored pencil. Everyone is very aware and knowledgeable of what this medium is, but most of the time we don't see it used in such great detail with this wonderful texture and shadows. Could you describe a little bit your process and how you build up those different textures?
Yeah, so when I seek to draw an animal, draw a subject, especially something from a photo, um I will sort of like break it down into its component shapes. Um, if you've ever seen like one of those paint by numbers, uh, um, like coloring books at like an art store or something, or like a painting book, you'll have like a large image, and it's broken down into small shapes that are like stuck together like puzzle pieces. And based on the instructions that the book gives you, you'll fill in um like each shape with its the appropriate color, the color that the book tells you to. I use sort of like a similar process. I will really, really look at an image. Once I get the basic shape, once I get the um, skeleton in air quotes of the image, like the basic shape, the overall proportions. I will, and that's something I've really had to hone over the years. A sense of proportion, and this part of the image is this size in relation to this part of the image. Once I have that down, I'll really look at the image and see what shapes I can perceive in the image itself, and I'll sort of do like a rough sketch in pencil of every single detail I could possibly see. And once I've accomplished that, once I think I've gotten as much basic detail as I possibly can, then I'll move on to the coloring phase. Or, in this case, filling it in with more pencil. And things like each individual scale, I might sort of like ad lib a little bit, like, I don't think I'm crazy enough to um try and represent every single little scale that I see in the photograph. But if I can get, like I said, if I can get the basic shape, then I can I pretty much have um uh, I'm pretty much as close to the original image, as I am satisfactorily able to get in order to represent the subject.
Great. Thank you for that insight. This piece, The Crow, this is personally one of my favorites. Could you give us a little bit of information on this piece?
Oh yeah, this one I was really excited about because I've been wanting to draw a crow for a while now. And I wanted to, snap a really good photograph of one, but I could never really get a good image. Because I mean, they're really hard to, catch. If you get too close, then they'll fly away. But so I was driving around for a while, like, to and from work and such, just going about my business. I had my camera in my car, just hoping against hope that I'd get a good spot to snap a good picture. And lo and behold, um I finally get a chance to, get a photograph. Um, I think it was around Main Street in on Alaska. I was able to snap a lot, quite a few really good photographs of this crow here. And once I had that, I could pretty much go from there. The background itself is fabricated. It's a product of my own imagination. I wanted to sort of like make a composite, but I wanted to draw like a little scene of Crow among like sort of like the desiccated bones of something that it would have picked clean and on its sort of like if you can see zoomed in like on a stone slab. I went to that was in a lot of ways the most challenging part. Stone has always been, when I was little, it was always a challenge to represent accurately. So I really took this opportunity to really see if I could do better than I had in previous outings. Basically what I did was I just went to Riverside Park near the Cultural Gardens and snapped a picture of one of those stone benches. And that's what the crow is pretty much standing on. And really, the thing about this image itself is that it sort of feeds into the theme of, um, it works with the theme of this gallery, this show at the Pump House, but it also is flexible because it feeds into the theme of something else that I'm working on, sort of a pet project of mine where I am, it's a little bit more fantasy oriented. I'm trying to basically come up with my own culture, like a completely fictional culture, complete with its own a fictional country, a fictional landscape, fictional people, fictional language, fictional religion, and so on and so forth. And how this crow, this piece feeds into that is, the bones here are basically the remains of somebody who had been laid to rest in a sky burial, which is part of this fictional culture. Like, instead of just burying their dead, they'll take them to the top of a hill and put them on like a stone slab in order to, for like carrion birds, like, crows and ravens and vultures to pick them clean, and then they'll gather up the bones, put them in an urn, and then inter them in a barrow underground. And that's what the crow represents what it does to us, a symbol of, death and sort of like the cleanup crew of the natural world, pretty much. But this on another level, on a completely separate level, this is what it represents to the culture that I'm trying to create.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Fun to hear the story behind other parts of your project and interests and everything. It's so interesting for me to hear how you're able to bring these different images you've taken of the crow, the stone, etc., and create your own landscape that we're then seeing in this piece. And um, I really enjoy this piece because of that, the forming of this landscape, the story that the um, viewers can make, like with the bones and the ribbon and everything. So this is a really great piece, great to see in person. The textures are wonderful on the screen, but they're even better in person. So everyone should definitely come and see this show.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. And everyone is welcome to come to our open house artist reception on August 2nd. Edward will be there, so you can come and see the exhibition, meet him. Before we leave, Edward, is there anything you would like people to keep in mind when viewing your work in person?
Yeah, really. So I think um, the theme that I try to go for this particular exhibition, I talk a little bit about it in my artist statement, but I think it's a theme that I really try and hammer home just throughout any and all avenues of my life, is that the natural world is, there's a lot of there's a lot of variation, a lot of natural beauty that is wrapped up in it. And I think what I try to do through my art is sort of like bring a little bit of that into people's lives, so they're more likely to see it and say, oh, this is the natural world. It's amazing. It's colorful, and it's worth preserving. It's worth defending. It's worth appreciating in and of itself for its own sake. And I think like people, when they look at art like this, um, I think it's important to keep that in mind because, I'm drawing them, yeah, but these are actual living, breathing things that exist. And they've got lives of their own, and needs and wants and motivation that are totally separate from ours, and um you know separate from just our viewing pleasure. um yeah, even though I'm trying to represent them and put them in a artistic mode for people to see, I think it's important to bear that in mind. And a lot of people will, and it's just one thing I always try to say, one thing I always try to communicate, just for the sake of it.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderfully said. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you so much, everyone, for watching.
Thank you so much for having me. It's really it's really a privilege.